From a player who spent over $60 million in 3 years to another player who became an armed robber, here are the NFL players that let themselves go. Let's start with Eddie Lacy, who burst onto the NFL scene by producing over 1,400 all-purpose yards in 2013. But it wasn't the opposition who proved to be Eddie Lacy's biggest enemy. It was himself. Despite passing the eye test during his rookie season, fans and scouts forgot to realize one crucial element to an NFL player's success: their drive. Because a few seasons later, in 2016, Lacy's drive was significantly tested after a season-ending injury in Week 5. Following his injury, Eddie Lacy returned with noticeable weight issues. And even though Lacy was always on the heavier side, his weight during that offseason turned teams the other way. While Lacy lost 22 pounds leading up to the 2016 NFL season, it was evident he gained it all back and more. At a reported 267 pounds, my guy was practically a lineman. Yet, that didn't stop the Seahawks from taking a chance on Lacy in that year's free agency. It turns out Pete Carroll had a plan: bribe him. Because who isn't motivated by money? The deal was simple. During monthly weigh-ins, if Lacy weighed under 250 pounds, he'd receive a whopping $55,000. Sheesh, that's a whole year's salary. Sign me up. Surprisingly, this plan didn't help. While losing weight was easy, keeping it off was a different battle. Unfortunately, this battle ultimately got the best of Lacy. And the 2017 NFL season marked the 6th and final year of Lacy's career. It's hard to believe how quickly Eddie Lacy's career ended. However, at least it wasn't as sudden as what nearly ended Plaxico Burress's career. My man accidentally shot himself, for crying out loud. How is that even possible? According to Burress, he was at a crowded New York nightclub in 2008 with a gun attached to his belt for protection. After entering the bar, Burress and his friend were approached by a security guard, suggesting they go upstairs to get a table. However, getting there proved to be a problem. The stairway turned out to be dark and narrow, which made getting upstairs a surprisingly difficult journey. Without being careful, Barr accidentally missed a step on his way up, causing his foot to slip. Unfortunately for Burress, this slip became more than just a minor mistake. At the same time, Burress slipped too, and his gun fell down the right pant leg of his jeans. In the rush of the moment, Burress's reflexes took over, and he reached for the gun. However, in a moment of terrible luck, Burress accidentally pulled the trigger, and a bullet shot out of his gun. To make matters worse, it turned out Plaxico Burress shot himself in the leg with the bullet. Yikes. But instead of getting sympathy from others, Burress was sent to jail for almost 2 years due to carrying that gun in New York without a firearm license. Despite all the bad news, Burress got to play 2 more years in the NFL following his sentence. Talk about a series of unlikely events. And speaking of unlikely events, one player literally got charged for attempted murder, robbery, and assault charges. But first, let's talk about Jamarcus Russell, who lost his motivation before playing a single NFL snap. Yet, it's hard to blame Russell. After all, he was handed a $70 million contract after he was selected first overall in 2007. So he was financially set for life from the get-go. And overnight, Russell became a whole different person. In order to even get Russell to watch game film, he had to be bribed with 10 bacon cheeseburgers by his teammates to stay motivated. Damn, that's a lot of cheeseburgers. And gobbling down 10 cheeseburgers in one sitting didn't sit well with Russell's body. So in a matter of months, Russell ballooned up to almost 300 pounds. Looks like Russell found out he wasn't invincible the hard way. Due to Russell's lack of preparation and self-care, it didn't take long before the coaches noticed. Because of that, the Raiders came up with a genius plan to expose Russell's lack of dedication. And it may just go down as one of the funniest football stories ever told. Because one day, the coaching staff sent Russell home with a blank DVD, and they told him that the DVD featured concepts and important plays for their upcoming game. but Jamarcus Russell took the DVD and never even turned it on. Despite this, Jamarcus Russell came into practice the next day, acting as if he had done his homework. Russell even went as far as to tell the coaching staff that the game plan looked good, but little did he know it was a test. All the dude had to do was turn on the DVD. Safe to say, the coaching staff's worst fears were confirmed. It was obvious that Russell just didn't care. In 2013, Russell's unhealthy diet became even more of a problem when attempting an NFL comeback. Suddenly, my man found himself weighing 315 pounds. While Jamarcus Russell let himself go physically, Antonio Brown was the other extreme. He let himself go mentally. Unfortunately, after gaining over 10,000 receiving yards in his first 9 NFL seasons, things have taken a turn for the worst for Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown has never refound his footing since forcing his way out of Pittsburgh due to an argument with Ben Roethlisberger in 2018. Regardless of the team, his patience has grown thin every time. Because in Las Vegas, Brown's problems started instantly. Before Brown even got on the field, he dealt with frostbite on his feet due to failure to wear proper footwear and cryotherapy. Seriously, man? It was almost as if he was trying to stay off the field. However, once Brown was finally able to practice, he had a major helmet dispute with the NFL. For whatever reason, Brown was attached to the now banned helmet he wore with the Steelers. Eventually, after filing 2 unsuccessful complaints regarding helmets against the NFL, it was time for Brown to move on. So after finally returning to the field with a non-banned helmet, Brown had a lot of catching up to do. But that never happened, since on the same day Brown chose his new helmet, Raiders general manager Mike Mayock fined Brown over $50,000 for missed practices, and Brown wasn't having it. Despite his already impressive net worth, Brown was furious about the fine. That very same day, Brown went on Instagram to post the letter containing the fines for the whole world to see. Wrong choice, dude. But that wasn't all Brown did. The next day, Brown decided to confront Mayock man-to-man by calling him a cracker and insulting him. As if confronting Mayock wasn't enough, Brown punted a football afterward and told him, "Fine me for that." I think we can all safely assume Mayock regrets trading for Antonio Brown. After lasting less than a year in Las Vegas, Brown's next move was with New England, which lasted less than 2 weeks. The Patriots had no patience for Brown's drama. On top of his quick temper, my man joined New England while dealing with sexual allegations. Yikes. Over a year later, on October 24th, 2020, Brown signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Luckily, his time with them lasted longer than the previous 2 teams. Because after dominating in the 2020 playoffs and getting a Super Bowl victory, it seems like Tampa Bay was the perfect place for AB. But this wasn't the case. Because during Week 17 this season against the Jets, a dispute between Brown and the Buccaneers became one of the most shocking events in NFL history. Halfway through the third quarter, Brown refused to re-enter the game when called upon. According to head coach Bruce Arians, Brown was pissed over not getting enough targets. Hearing Brown's selfishness, an angry Arians decided to release Antonio on the spot. Surprising no one, Brown did not take the news well. Brown threw off his jersey and ran off the field in a moment of pure frustration. And as crazy as that was, it's only going to get crazier from here. Because just 2 days before Super Bowl 37, Barrett Robbins vanished into thin air, leaving the Raiders without their center. How mysterious. It turned out, Robbins was bipolar and dealt with a severe manic episode before the game, which caused him to believe that the Raiders had already won. So while the rest of the team was preparing, Robbins was in Tijuana, Mexico, celebrating as if they had just won the Super Bowl. But that wasn't the only unfortunate thing about Robbins' life, since Robbins was later released by the Raiders for taking steroids. Robbins was later charged with attempted murder, robbery, and assault charges. This man had a very interesting life, to say the least. On a similar note, William Perry also had a very interesting life. The 350-pound defensive lineman was someone nobody wanted to guard. But while his weight was quite an advantage on the field, off the field is a whole different story. Following his retirement in 1996, things quickly got difficult for Perry. Without frequent exercise from playing football, Perry put on even more weight. So much so, the hospital needed to get involved. Unable to control his weight, Perry soon found himself with diabetes and weighing 450 pounds, and something had to change. Fortunately, something did change. However, that something turned out to be life-threatening, because in 2008, Perry was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. For those unfamiliar with this syndrome, it produces neurological problems that often leave victims paralyzed and on life support. Safe to say, you don't want it at any cost. A year later, this condition had William Perry begging for his life after he lost a jaw-dropping 190 pounds over a very short time period. Luckily, Perry survived. However, that wasn't the end of Perry's problems. As Perry's health issues worsened, he became an alcoholic and worked his way back up to 400 pounds. But fortunately, Perry's still alive today. And another good thing is this video on the screen, so click it now.